Register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. Today is Wednesday, June 10th, 2020. Thanks so much for joining me. I feel like I need to apologize for how I'm getting ready to start the show because I know we need to get rid of Donald Trump. We absolutely do. I think he is a scourge on humanity. I can't emphasize that enough. I stand in solidarity with every single person who understands exactly how dangerous Donald Trump really is. But folks, what the hell is wrong with Joe Biden? What the hell is wrong with this man? He penned an op-ed in the USA Today. And in this season, when we have seen the clear abuse of policing agencies and a definitive cry from the people on the ground, the people in the communities, the people in the cities that are protesting the police, the people have called for defunding the police. Joe Biden has offered to give them a surplus of $300 million, giving them an additional $300 million for training. I'm sorry. Read the room, Joe Biden. The cops don't need more money. What they need is less money. We need fewer police, if any police at all. Our communities are not safe. One thing we got to get, let me make something clear. Let me get off of Joe Biden because, it's going to be what it's going to be in November. And I hope Joe Biden wins. I'm going to be quite honest with you. I hope Joe Biden wins because Donald Trump has got to go. There's no way, there is no question about it. So I'm just going to leave electoral politics alone for a minute. I need people to get this out of their head. The police are not what keep your neighborhood safe. They do not keep your neighborhood safe. I've talked about it yesterday, but there's a concerted effort being made by Democrat and Republican alike. Those people who are the beneficiaries of the police state, those people who supply funding for the police state because the police state provides protection for their political and economic power, those people you will find both in the Democratic as well as the Republican parties. They have put a concerted effort into scaring you into believing that we should not do anything except for what, Joe Biden? Give them more funding? Let me read this paragraph to you so that you understand. This is from USA Today, penned by Joe Biden. He said, "I've long been a firm believer in the power of community policing." Really, Joe? But okay. All right. We'll leave it alone. "I've long been a firm believer in the power of community policing, getting cops out of their cruisers and building relationships with the people and the communities that they are there to serve and protect. That's why I'm proposing an additional $300 million to reinvigorate community policing in our country. Every single police department should have the money they need to institute real reforms like adopting a national use of force standard, buying body cameras, and recruiting more diverse police officers." I'm sorry, but there is a disconnect, an intentional disconnect between what the people who have been protesting, the thousands, the tens of thousands of people across this country who have been out in the streets protesting, and what this Democratic Party is putting forward. This last line is what gets me the most. Every single police department should have the money, quote, "Every single police department should have the money they need to institute real reforms like adopting a national use of force standard, buying body cameras, and recruiting more diverse police officers." Where's Joe Biden? Joe Biden is stuck in 1993. Joe Biden is stuck in 2 decades before all the things that we've seen since they've gotten body cams. Police officers regularly, as a matter of routine, cut off their body cameras. And then if they don't cut them off, they mute their body cameras. The Democratic Party is not looking to actually institute even mild reforms. While the majority of the protesters and the activist community are calling for defunding and abolishing the police, the establishment of the Democratic Party have made it clear that they have no interest in even the mildest reforms. And when it came time to explain why this legislation that they put forward yesterday is so milquetoast, Jim Clyburn of South Carolina said this in an interview yesterday.
Everybody keeps telling me about what happened in Camden, New Jersey. I know what happened in Camden, New Jersey. They got rid of a rotten police department, and they turned over the policing to the county, even hired some private people to do the policing. They did not defund policing. They defunded a rotten department. There's a difference. And so I would say to all of my friends, I seem to be, to me, history is instructive. I was there along with John Lewis back in the 60s and the early 70s. We saw how our movement got hijacked. We did a lot back then that led to where we are today. We would have done even more if we had not got overtaken by sloganary, burn, baby, burn, took off in this country. That was not John Lewis. He never struck a match. That was not Jim Clyburn. I never threw a brick. We were trying to get things so that our children and grandchildren can have a better life in these United States of America. And I would say to all of those people who are benefiting from those efforts, be careful that we don't get hijacked this time like we got the last time.
So I played a large part of it, and there's even more of it that I should play and discuss because there's even more problematic parts than this. But in this clip, he's basically saying that they could have gotten more in the 60s if it was not for the sloganeering, right? The burn, baby, burn that was chanted in the 60s. And he's applying that to today to suggest that the defund the police cries that are coming from the community are hijacking their efforts. But their efforts here in 2020 are not reflective of the problem that's happening around us. What we saw over the last 2 weeks, the crackdown, the brutal crackdown of the police state in this country, what the Democrats presented in their bill yesterday is not commensurate with the problem that we have at hand. I went over the details of the bill either yesterday or the day before. I outlined the things that they're talking about, and they're really only talking about things that we proposed years ago. Things that should have been outlawed a long time ago, banning the chokehold. The NYPD banned the chokehold in 1993, but that did not stop them from using it to kill Eric Garner. Okay? And so all of these proposals that they are offering in this legislation it's woefully insufficient. It does not address the problem. The problem is that the police are overfunded, they are hyper-militarized, and they have been living and brutalizing our communities with impunity. And the reason they have been able to do that is because in every single city, the majority of the budget goes to the policing force. It is an empire within an empire. It is a state within the state. And these organizations have the control over the cities. The mayors are terrified of the police chiefs, the police benevolent associations, the unions. They're terrified of the rank and file police officer. They are terrified of even the idea of cutting the budget for these police officers. And so is Joe Biden. Brings me back to Joe Biden. I know we got to get rid of Donald Trump, but damn it, this man is talking about giving these pigs even more money. What is wrong with them? Here's what's wrong with them. And I'm sorry if this is news to some of you, but for most of you who are in my audience, you already know this. The Democratic Party is complicit with the police state. They are complicit because the police state protects the power structure of this country. At what point did we see the police lose their minds, ladies and gentlemen, non-gender conforming individuals? When do we see the police let their fangs out and go across this country bashing white people, white middle-class women in the head? Like some shit you've never seen before. When's the last time you saw police brutalize white women on national television? Well, the social media, but you get it. It was when the people collectively said that we need transformation in this country. It was when the people collectively united and stood against this power structure. It was when the people held this political system and this economic system to account. Basically, it's when the people said we have had enough and we're not taking this anymore. What did the ruling elite in this country do? They unleashed the police state in its full force, and now that they have done it, and so many people have seen exactly how brutal the police state is, now they're trying to fix their reputation because they went one step too far. The police were celebrating because they thought they won the streets. At the end of the day, they lost the goodwill of the American people. And now they have to fix the damage they created. All right, this next clip, well, I feel like I have to respect the music. This next clip is of New York police boss Mike O'Mara as he spoke out angrily, demanding respect, demanding that the media stop and the American people stop treating them like animals and like thugs. Really, champ? This was in front of a crowd of members of the Police Benevolent Association. And this clip came as a result of 2 weeks of police officers cracking the skulls of American citizens, black, white, other, young, old. This came as a result of them unleashing all of their pent-up small penis energy and just really trying to dominate the American people into submission. And the American people saw it and realized for the first time what black people have been saying about police officers all along is true. And now the police are trying to win back the narrative, but this didn't really go the way he thought it went. Listen in.
This isn't stained by someone in Minneapolis.
Holding up a badge.
Still got a shine on it.
His badge.
And so do theirs. So do theirs. Stop treating us like animals and thugs and start treating us with some respect. That's what we're here today to say. We've been left out of the conversation. We've been vilified. It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Is it?
Trying to make us embarrassed of our profession. 375 million interactions. Overwhelmingly positive.
It's a big word.
Nobody talks about all the police officers that were killed in the last week in the United States of America, and there were a number of them. We don't condone Minneapolis. We roundly reject what he did as disgusting. It's disgusting.
What about
it's not
Eric
what
Gardner?
We do. It's not what police officers do. Our legislators abandoned us. The press is vilifying us. Well, you know what, guys? I'm proud to be a cop.
I'm proud to be a
I'm
cop.
going to continue to be proud to be a cop until the day I retire. And that's all I have to say.
That's all I get to say about that. I'm sorry. I'm not fluent in oink. I don't speak pig Latin that well. Listen, man, these cops, now they're trying to salvage their image. No, my friend, we have so many videos. In fact, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm trying to, and the you know, wherever you're watching live, I looped in the version of this that shows you. It shows you how they were cracking skulls, you know. As he was talking about, this is not what police officers do. Well, right there in New York City, you saw the grossest example of the police state, brought to you in part by Bill de Blasio, Democratic mayor of New York City. But we saw it for ourselves. And there's not really, and even beyond him trying to tell us that this is not what they do, even though this is literally what they did for the past 2 weeks, multiple protesters were killed. He's talking about the police officers that were killed, but nobody's really even talking about the number of protesters that were killed by police last week, in the last 2 weeks. But the American people saw for themselves, and setting that aside, because I think you can see the disingenuousness, right? Or you can hear the disingenuousness. But this is the height of gaslighting. Right? You can see this is the stage of an abusive relationship where the abuser in the relationship is now trying to be offended because you're upset at their abuse. Oh, I know abusive relationships, right? It's gaslighting. It's classic. It's a classic technique used by someone who holds the power in the relationship. They hold the power, and now they have abused that power, and the person who has been the victim has called them out on it. And what do? They feign as though they are offended. How dare you? Yeah, no, you've been beating us across the head. You don't get to play the victim. In fact, we laugh at your feigned victimhood. It's quite hilarious, to be quite honest with you. So, it didn't really work out too well for most people who saw that. It compounded it, right? Because most people identify that abusive attitude, that gaslighting abuse. People can see right through it. And this is the thing that has to come of this revolution, if nothing else. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I think most of us at the beginning who gamed this out realize that we do not have the politicians in power to actually get rid of the police state. Not yet. But what we do have is the narrative. And we have the witness on repeat, on loop all day long, every day, of how these pigs brutalized their own communities. They brutalized white folks like it was nothing, man. They were beating bicycle messengers, people delivering food. They were in New York hitting them across the head. They were hitting like Sue Beth, who ain't hurt nobody, man. Mary Sue ain't never hurt nobody. And the pigs in New York were cracking their skulls. In Seattle, Portland, the police state came out in full force, and the strength of this movement, in addition to the people who are out there, is the social media component where we are able to keep it forever in the face of the American people that this is what the police state in this country has always been. And so now their badges are stained because they deserve to be stained. They never deserve the dignity and the respect that they garnered just by the fact of them having a badge. It used to be a time where a police officer could come and testify in front of a court, all right, in front of a jury, and he'll come in his badge because the badge was a symbol of honor. Now, because of how they behaved, that badge is a symbol of disgust. It is a symbol of disrespect. It is something that it is looked down upon. You brought this on yourselves. You behaved like wild boars. Don't be surprised when we call you pigs. And so now the American people, instead of lending some sense of credibility and undue honor and respect to police officers just because they're a police officer, now we look at you with the eye of suspicion that you have deserved all along, that black people have been telling you. We've been telling y'all for years that these are some corrupt, barbaric, just malevolent, vicious cretins. We've been telling you that they are pigs. We didn't just call, but y'all had to see it for yourself. So now you're with us. Now you see it. And all I'm saying is, no matter what they do, never forget, when you see a police officer, view them through the lens of suspicion. View them through the lens of the last 2 weeks. Every time you see a pig, a pig. Every time you see one, when they are testifying, you should assume that they're lying because they spent 2 weeks lying to you and they're lying to you now. They beat you across the head and said that they didn't beat you across the head. They cracked that man's skull in Buffalo, New York, and said that he tripped. You saw them lying. So now you should assume every time you see a cop that they are lying. Because we have given them the benefit of the doubt. We have given them undue respect. We have lent them a level of credibility that they have abused. They have systemically abused the American people, particularly the black community, throughout their entire existence. And it is high time that they wear the stink of their shame. Pigs. All right. People have asked me my opinion. Several interviews that I've done, they've asked me my opinion on police reform versus police abolition, prison abolition, and quite a few areas that I am not an expert in. So I'm going to start bringing voices in to speak to that. For now, I'm going to play two voices, prominent voices, Angela Davis and Tracy Kesey. They both have a track record in these fields. And I think it's important to keep in mind that we all play a role. Don't look to everyone to have the actual methodology of transforming from police state to abolishing the police. Here's Angela Davis first.
What we are seeing now are new demands, demands to demilitarize the police, demands to defund the police, demands to dismantle the police and envision different modes of public safety. We're asked now to consider how we might imagine justice in the future. This is a very exciting moment. I don't know if we have ever experienced of this kind of global challenge to racism and to the consequences of slavery and colonialism.
All right, that was Angela Davis. This is Tracy Kesey, and she is of Policing Equity. It is a research and action think tank that promotes police transparency, equity, and accountability through research.
When we talk about where do we see bias, I mean, you see bias in all areas, but I think what you have to do is back up and understand the system of criminal justice itself was designed to do exactly what it's designed to do. And so when we talk about structural racism, we talk about how it plays out and what it looks like, we know there's disparities in the outcomes of policing. And what's happening here today is not a reform movement. This is a movement that's going to require something absolutely different than what is happening. And unless there's a coordinated effort to look at what we are calling policing today, and if we're not taking into account about how communities believe their public safety should be served and delivered, or even if not, we can talk about reforms all we want. And I don't know about TEF, but for me, there's exhaustion. There's generational exhaustion here. And it's just not going to be, nor will it be allowed to be, the same.
That was Tracy Kesey, and she was speaking to Yamiche Alcindor on the PBS NewsHour. I will have interviews here, but I wanted to bring those two voices in because I think it's important to point out that not everyone, the only people who should be asserting their opinion as experts are people who have been doing this research for some time. Okay, all right. And when you come to my show, I want you to understand what you're getting. You're getting a debunking of the spin that you're going to be inundated with. Right? Where it's like I'm the offense. And the people like me, we play offense because a lot of times we have to cut through the BS of the narratives that are out there. Like we have to actively go out there and fight against the narrative that is out there so that the scholars can get in here and have the substantive conversations with policymakers to actually get some fundamental change in this country. And in my lane, one of the things that is really prevalent right now is this fear mongering that's going on by Republicans as well as Democrats around the idea that the defunding the police means your neighborhood will no longer be safe. OK, it is rhetorically and it really is the grossest type of pandering. It's playing to your fears, and it's using the fear of chaos and anarchy as a means of keeping everything the same. In other words, what they're trying to do is say, if you change anything, then you're going to go into complete chaos. Police officers saying if you change anything, then we're not going to do our jobs. And now you have a lot of well-meaning people who were all in favor of this movement who are now saying, oh, but we can't defund the police because if we defund the police, we won't be able to call 911. I need you to fundamentally reject something in your mind. Your neighborhoods are not safe because of the police. Your neighborhoods are not safe because you have police patrolling your neighborhood. Think about it. It literally is the opposite. The neighborhoods that have police patrolling them are the neighborhoods that have the most violence. I don't ever see police in my neighborhood. That's because we have enough resources in our neighborhood to not need police. Everybody is out there cutting their lawns, living a pretty decent middle-class life. But in impoverished communities, those that are devoid of any resources, that's where you see the police patrolling. And that's where you see the crime. Your neighborhood is not safe because of the police. It's not like they're centurions. It's not like they're standing on the wall, making sure that the zombies and the mass and the horde, don't break through. But that's what they try to get in your mind. And so now people who have never had to call 911 because you've lived in a good neighborhood most of your life, now all of a sudden you're terrified. Oh, if we get rid of the police, then we're not going to be able to call 911. And even when you do call 911, I want to just give you some data that shows you that even when you call 911, even when you have an emergency, even when someone is raped or someone is robbed, the police are not protecting you. All right, this data was compiled by RAIN. That is the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. And out of every 1,000 sexual assaults, 995 perpetrators will walk free. Only 230 are reported, 46 lead to arrest. Out of 230 reported rapes, only 46 lead to arrest. Nine get referred to prosecutors, only 5 will result in a felony conviction. And only 4.6 will be incarcerated. So out of 1,000, only 995 go to jail. Out of 1,000 robberies, 619 are reported to police, 167 lead to arrest, 37 get referred to prosecutors, 22 will lead to a felony, and only 20 will go to jail. I need you to get that. Out of 1,000 robberies, only 20 go to jail. So the police are protecting us? The police are keeping us safe? Out of assault and battery, out of 1,000 cases of assault and battery, 627 are reported, 255 lead to arrest, 105 get referred to prosecutors, 41 lead to conviction, and only 33 out of 1,000. 33 out of 1,000 go to jail. What are the police doing? What are they doing with these $5 billion budgets in the city of New York? What are they doing with $3 billion in LA? They're not solving crimes. They're not preventing crimes. They're not standing watch outside of your home. They're not standing watch outside of your neighborhood. And even when okay, all right. You get the picture. But I just want it to be said in your head so that you could hear it again and hear it clearly. Your neighborhood is not safe because of the police. Your neighborhood is safe because your neighborhood has enough resources where people don't commit crimes of desperation, crimes of survival, and crimes of opportunity. Because most of the people who live in your neighborhood, their opportunity lies in the resources that they have, their job, their home, their ability to see that there is a way out of their community that does not involve crime. That's why your neighborhood is safe. It's not safe because some police are on patrol. When's the last time you had to call 911? And even if you did call 911, when's the last time they actually solved the crime? Well, I just gave you the data. Don't let these politicians fool you. What they're trying to protect is the police state that protects them.
Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD show and support the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Here we go. At this point in every single episode, I like to take a minute to thank the people who make this show possible, our patrons. Very special welcome to Jamie Magdens. Thank you so much for becoming a patron. Very special welcome and thank you to Simon. Thank you for becoming a patron. Big Dave, I see you, bro. Thank you for becoming a patron. And Raymond Lee, thank you for becoming a patron. Okay. Bounce. Aaron McKee, thank you so much for becoming a patron. Andrew Evans, thank you for becoming a patron. Adam, thank you for becoming a patron. Damien, thank you for becoming a patron. Christoph C, I'm not gonna ruin your last name. Thank you so much for being a patron. Kyle Precise, thank you for being a patron. And Scott Vetter, thank you for becoming a patron. Everybody bop your head for a second. That's it. You too can become a part of this prestigious and prodigious patron family by going to patreon.com/the BPD show, where you get twice the content, uncut, unfiltered, unedited interviews, and none of the advertisements like you'll get right here.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at www.thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Yeah. Okay. All right, welcome back, everybody. One last thing for the public show before we go. A tweet from It's S Dunke on Twitter. or Dunk with an E. I don't know how he pronounces it. You guys know I'm horrible with these names. Even these Twitter handles give me problems sometimes, right? But I digress. He tweeted out footage that he captured himself of the KKK marching in Rome, Georgia yesterday, as everyone else was going to vote and trying to vote, and they couldn't vote because, Georgia has done all it could to suppress the vote through making it difficult. People waited in lines for hours, but that didn't stop the KKK from coming out and chanting KKK is here to stay. In the video, you can see the police officers are not facing the Klan. You can see the police officers are facing the people, facing people who would oppose. It wasn't just the KKK. You had Nazis there, Nazi flags, literal Nazi flags flying. And I think it's important for us to dispel one other myth about the police. The police are not apolitical. I don't hear many conversations about that, but I just want to put it very clearly. The police in this country are not apolitical. They have ideologies that are rigid. They have ideologies that often intersect with white nationalism and Nazism, fascism, literally. But we have this assumption, this very insidious assumption that is at the core of our justice system, that the entry point into the justice system is blind justice, like offers blind justice. For that to be the case, then your police officers would have to be apolitical, but they are not apolitical. And I use this video out of Rome, Georgia, to demonstrate that point. We've seen video after video over the last few weeks of police officers working in conjunction with far right-wing movements. We've seen them do this, and no one really discusses the fact that the strong arm of our justice system, the tip of the spear, so to speak, is as ideological as Fox News, even more so than Fox News. You have police officers who identify with white nationalism very openly and very directly. At least Fox News tries to pretend as though they're not racist. That is a problem when you consider how the police state was wielded against the will of the people fighting for progress. You can call us left wing if you want. I don't care. That's quite all right with me. The bottom line is that the people who have been in the streets for the past 2 weeks are out there fighting for liberation and progress. And the police, who hold a deeply seated ideological leaning towards fascism and right-wing authoritarianism in this country, put a little bit of extra oomph behind that hit that they cracked somebody's skulls with, because not only were they doing it in the name of stopping this group of people from breaking the curfew, they were also doing it in the name of, I don't like your ideology. That is a critical component. Now, I know that there are plenty of scholars who have probably dissected this. I just don't hear it really in our regular discourse, our daily discourse. Part of our conversations must include the fact that police agencies across this country are ideological. And when they carry out their orders, they are tainted. They are always tainted with right-wing authoritarianism. Because honestly, that is the preponderance of our police state. The police state does the bidding of right-wing authoritarianism. So why is it that we pretend as though the police, why would we have ever given credence to an organization that is full of right-wing authoritarians and people who are willing to use brute force to execute that authoritarianism, that right-wing white nationalism that is at the core of the policing agencies across this country? Why would we have ever given them a badge of nobility, like this badge of honor and integrity? The assumption, the fundamental assumption about police officers is that they have been good all this time, when in fact they have been the executors of right-wing white nationalism in this country. All right, patrons, stay tuned in. There's a lot more show to go, 30 minutes more to go. Everyone else, Patreon, if you want to get access to it, patreon.com/the BPD show. If not, thank you so much for being a beautiful audience. I will see you next time.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.